Hey everybody, how are we all doing today? Welcome and thank you for stopping by to this little tutorial I've put together for this UFO craft that you can see here. So today we're going to learn how to make one of these. We'll go through it step by step, and yeah, so you can use it for just sort of messing around in create mode, or you can make a level with it. I might actually make a future video with this because it's quite fun to play around with, and yeah, just put a little game together maybe. But yeah, so we're going to learn how to build the hull of the craft, and then we're going to animate it and build some nice smooth flight controls, and also this little absorb feature that I've got going on here. So yeah, so if you want to stick around and learn how to build this thing, yeah, stay with me and we'll get started. Anyway, let's start. So first of all, we're going to look for the rotating disc in the animators section in the tools bag. You can see that little dot there in the middle. I actually don't like using that. I think that's technically the front of the rotating disc, but when you use that, it kind of messes the decorations up a little bit. It slightly tilts them to the left or the right unless you get it dead central. Whereas this back side of it, it's always flat. The only challenge is finding the middle of the thing. So I recommend turning it right up, and you can see there you keep picking it up and placing it down, and eventually you'll find the middle. So once we've done that, we can actually copy this and place a few of them down to try and just create the hull that we're after, like the look that we're after. You don't need to spend too long on this as long as you've got something basic that you're happy with. Yeah, so it's not too difficult. Anyway, so moving on, I just found this decoration randomly saved into my objects bag. I don't actually know what pack this is from, although I suspect it could be from the DC pack, which I don't own. Don't think I do anyway. It's been a long time, but yeah, I've just placed this on a piece of hologram and put a black sticker on this hologram. That way we can turn the hologram's brightness up and down as much as we like, and you won't be able to see the hologram. It will just translate through the decoration. Not all decorations do this. You can see like a little colour wheel next to decorations and objects and different things that you can change the colour of, but for this particular one you can. And again, you don't have to use the decorations that I'm using here in this build. I think I used the light stud decoration as the for the main part of the hull of the ship, but you don't have to. You can use whatever decorations you want. Yeah, or if you really wanted to, you could use material. But yeah, I wanted that spin effect, so yeah, that's why I went for decorations for this build. Like I do most of the things that I make, to be fair. So yeah, you can see there just before the jump cut that I'd placed down a bigger piece of hologram, and that was just to stick the whole thing together, and just made it invisible basically. So everything is one kind of solid object. So we're looking for a particular decoration here, the spacesuit helmet, and I think this was from the sci-fi pack. I've got it categorized as in the clothing section in the decorations here. So I wanted like a little kind of dome on my UFO and Sackboy's head to sort of pop up out of the UFO. You don't have to do this. If you don't have this decoration, it's no bother. There is an alternative in the form of this cockpit blaster here. I do believe that this was given to us by Media Molecule or Sumo in a prize bubble in one of the levels. I have no idea which one. So you have to look that up. But again, this isn't absolutely integral to the build. This is just part of the looks process that I was after. I just wanted something that looked pretty cool. Again, if you really wanted to, you could just have the UFO visible, and when we eventually put a controlinator into this thing, you can have it so that Sackboy is not visible if that's what you want. But for this particular build, I wanted to sort of see his little head poking out of at the top of the UFO into the dome. So yeah, you can choose to take this step or not. It doesn't really matter. So anyway, after doing that, we're actually going to take a piece of material now. I'm just going to use cardboard. So I want to kind of like shape out the basic shape of the UFO. So I'm just going to take a couple of different shapes here, and you'll see what I'm talking about in a second. So the idea being is that we want a physical part, something to impact things as we're flying around, because we don't want the UFO to be, you know, we don't want it to be sort of like basically like a ghost, you know, we want it to actually impact things. So once we've got that shaped out, we're just going to place a microchip down, and I'm going to set a sound object to impacts, and then we're going to actually go into impacts in the sounds, and I'll just pick this chain link sound effect. So basically you can have different settings for the trigger in these things. If you look for the trigger option, and I've picked the one for impact, so every time something hits the hull of the craft or we fly into things, basically the sound effect will trigger. So I've just put down an opacity tweaker here and a material tweaker. The opacity tweaker we want to set all the way to 0. The material tweaker, we're setting it to not grabbable. We're going to have a bit of bounce on there. I think I actually set it to about 30% in the end. And the friction didn't really matter. I kind of wanted just a little bit. We want it non-stick. We want it indestructible. I don't want it to cast any shadows, and I don't want it to make any sort of sounds. So yeah, just a few basic settings here. But you'll notice in a moment that you can still sort of see the outline of the material. Just giving it a quick test here, see what it sounds like. Yeah, so once you've done that, glue it all in place, and you'll see in a moment when I put preview on that you can actually still see the outline of the cardboard. That's because I hadn't quite set the opacity tweaker all the way down. I didn't notice. But yeah, so there we go. We've got the basic hull of the craft essentially done, and we've got the physical part and the looks. So anyway, next up, we're just going to place a gravity tweaker down so we can hold it in place while we're actually unpaused. And I want to take a quick look at sort of placing a microchip, a controlinator down now. So at this point I should mention that the rotating discs, you can actually set them to be either on, off or speed. So we want them as a speed setting, because the idea being that when we jump into the UFO and when we jump out of the UFO, we want them to slowly spin up until they're at full speed when we jump into the UFO, and then slowly spin down as we jump out. So you kind of get a really kind of effective but simple animation there, and it's really not that difficult to set. It's it's quite easy actually. So you can see here that I'm just sort of struggling to try and place the what do you call it, the controlinator where I want it in the craft, but eventually we get there. There we go. So we'll jump in there in a second and have another look. But yeah, so let's put a microchip down just for a moment, and we'll put a little timer in there. Set it forwards backwards, and then we're going to take the central part of the controlinator there and plug it into the timer. So that central part of the controlinator there actually acts as a bit of an on-off switch when we jump in and out. So when we're in, it's active; when we're out, it's not active. So yeah, the timer, just set it to the sort of time that you're after. So I think I went for 2 seconds here. And then we're going to plug them into the rotating disc inputs. You can see I was having a little bit of trouble here trying to find where the input is, but eventually I get it. So yeah, you'll probably go through something similar to this, but again, you can plug them in a little bit earlier if you want. I just like to make life difficult for myself for some reason, but yeah, who's keeping count of all the mistakes anyway, but whatever. So yeah, you can see there the effect that we've got, the spin up and the spin down. So moving on, I've actually just took the central part of that controlinator again, and we've used that to set a bunch of sounds up for when it turns on. So we've kind of like got activation sounds there. So you can just pick whatever you like. I pick them at random. And then you can see some sound effects have got like a little asterisk kind of symbol next to them. Basically that means that it's a continuous sound. And I've actually used the timer here to plug into that one down there. So yeah, this one I've set to modify volume. So when you plug it into the top and in the side there, you can hear that it kind of like whirs on and off, like when you jump in, as the timer slowly goes up and down, it modifies the volume and the sound effect. So yeah, you kind of like get this gradual noise basically that kicks in, and I've picked a few different ones out there. As the video goes on, you'll be able to hear that as I jump in and out. So I'll just set another microchip up here with a timer on it. We're going to set it to basically about 1.2, whatever. You can set it to 1 second if you like. And we've got a couple of toggles here. You want to set them opposite to each other. So yeah, we plug them in via the timer like that. And also you want to plug the timer into its own reset at the bottom of the timer there, so it'll continuously tick basically. So you've got one toggle set to the X and one set to the tick, and then we're having two movers here. We're going to have one moving slightly upwards and slightly downwards, so 0.3 on each one. Hook them in, and then we're going to take the gravity down just so we can see it moving up and down. So here's our secondary animation that we've come up with now. So we've just got a little sort of bobbing up and down motion there. So something quite simple but effective. So anyway, let's freeze it in place again with that gravity tweaker just for a moment, and we'll put another microchip down. And now we're actually going to go into sort of taking a sequencer here and shrinking the chip of the board of the sequencer down just to accommodate a battery. We're going to set it to 0.1 seconds per strip and change it to positional. So we're actually going to take the left-right on the right stick and plug that into the sequencer input here. So when we move left or right, it's very, very sensitive on the stick. You can see we only have to move on it slightly and you can see a signal turn on. So we're going to copy that and place two down, one to the left, one to the right. We're going to get a direction splitter and plug the plus into the left one and the minus into the right one. And we're going to take the left-right on that right stick and plug it into the direction splitter. And you can see there when you move left to right, each one of them lights up whether you're moving left or right, but the central one always lights up. That's quite important. So yeah, we're going to take a NOT gate here. I'm going to take an OR gate, and then we're going to take another NOT gate. Take the top NOT gate, plug it into the microchip above it for the bobbing up and down animation. We'll take the OR gate, plug it into the NOT gate at the top. Take the NOT gate at the bottom, plug it into the OR gate. We're going to take the central part of the controller and put it into the bottom NOT gate. And then we're going to take that central sequencer and plug it into the OR gate there. So the idea for this is that bobbing up and down motion, we don't always want that to be on, only when we jump into the UFO. There you go, you can see that it lights up when we jump in. And when we move left and right, we want it to turn off as well, because we don't want it to interrupt our flight animations that are going to come later on down the line. So that's quite an important step, that bit. We want to follow that to the letter, basically. Okay, so we're going to set up a little constant reset, I like to call it. So we're going to take this timer, set it to 0.1, and we're going to plug it into its own reset. So we're just going to test that out now. There we are. And then we're going to plug the NOT gate into that timer there, and then we're going to plug the output of the timer into all of the resets of the sequencers. We'll take the central sequencer battery and plug it into that NOT gate. So every time we move left or right or touch that right stick, you'll see the timer stops, and then when we let go, it starts again. Sometimes with the sequencers they can get stuck, so a constant reset is quite a nice idea to put in there. So we're going to take a couple of microchips now, one to the left and one to the right. We're going to copy that little bit of logic set up there with the NOT gate, the OR gate, and the other NOT gate. Just copy it and place it within that microchip. We'll take the central part of the controller and plug it into the bottom NOT gate. And then basically we'll move on now to taking the central sequencer battery and plug that into the OR gate. So what we're going to do here is we are going to set up a few gyroscopes. So we're going to have a central one, and then one leaning to the left and one leaning to the right. So the central one, we are going to take that top NOT gate and plug it into the gyroscope, and then we're going to grab a copy of that and sort of lean one over to the right like so, and then lean one over to the left. You want these to be equal. So we're going to take the left sequencer battery output and put it into the left one, and the same with the right one there, just so I'm demonstrating on screen. So the idea being is that when we lean to the left and lean to the right with the right stick, you will see that the central gyroscope turns off, but the left one or the right one turns on, depending on which way we're sort of leaning. So yeah, it'll allow the craft to sort of lean from left to right, and you can see here that it's a little bit crazy. But there is actually a little bug that I encountered. I'm actually going to show that on camera in a moment and whatnot, and then we won't have to sort of tweak the gyroscope so much. It looks like I've fixed it here, but I actually haven't. So when we get to the jump cut, you'll see what I'm talking about, and we'll rectify that mistake. So yeah, you can see that I've actually just detached the controlinator here, the piece of hologram that the controlinator is attached on, and this is what was actually happening. For some reason, the central gyroscope had glitched out, and it was kind of forcing me over to the left there. So the way we're going to fix this is we're going to look for that microchip that we originally put down on the piece of material, and we are going to transfer the logic that we've made so far on that bottom microchip here on the controlinator. I'm going to transfer that over, pop it on there. So now the so now all of the logic is contained within that microchip that's now on the actual craft itself. So all I'm going to do here is just move the microchip just up a little bit so that it's more central, because we want the gyroscopes to kind of rotate from the center of mass in the UFO. It just looks a little bit better than sort of rotating from the very bottom of the object. So yeah, if you followed all the steps so far, then just do this on your own, and copy basically what I've just done, because you might encounter the same problem. Yeah, you can see here, look, that we've kind of got a nice tilt to the left and the right. Just ignore these two gyroscopes that I'm deleting here. I was just messing about with a few more while I was trying to diagnose the problem. But yeah, so you can adjust the rotation speed and the acceleration until you kind of get a feel for what you want with the left and the right. I wanted mine to be sort of kind of snappy but smooth. So you can adjust the acceleration, you can adjust the rotation speed, and you can kind of get something a bit smoother, unless you really like it sort of looking really snappy. And of course you can readjust the angle slightly so it can tilt slightly more. So yeah, again, just another little animation that adds to the realism. So anyway, moving on now, we're going to move on to the right microchip. So I'm going to place down an advanced mover here. I think I set mine to about 8. Put the acceleration all the way up, and I'm going to show in a moment how kind of crazy this looks. But for now, let's just hook it all up. So we'll take that central part of the microchip and plug it into the on-off part of the advanced mover. We'll take the left-right, plug that into the left-right port of the advanced mover, and then same with the up-down. So I'm actually going to hop in the craft and just sort of move around with it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's kind of like a bit too sort of crazy, the movement. It doesn't sort of move around very smoothly. So we're actually going to move on in a moment to how we sort of negate this and bring about a little bit of control. And it's actually all done through what they're called gravity tweakers. So I'm just going to demonstrate here in a moment. I'll put down another microchip. There we go, we'll just stick it above there, and we're going to take the original gravity tweaker that we've got and just place that onto the microchip. I think it's set to 100% anti-grav and 20% dampening. So we're going to edit this one to be 50% dampening now. So I'll get to why we're doing this in a moment, but let's just for now we'll hook it all up. So we want to take a OR gate. I'm going to place that below, like so. We are then going to take the left-right sequencers again. So we'll go from the one from the left first, take the output from the battery there, and then the right one. Plug these both into the both ports of the OR gate, and then we're going to plug it into the right gravity tweaker. Now we're after a NOT gate, so we'll put a NOT gate down, and we're going to plug this one into the left gravity tweaker, and then take the OR gate and plug it into the NOT gate. So the idea is that when we're moving around, the one on the right gravity tweaker, that one sort of kicks into effect, and because the dampening is set to 50, it kind of takes a little bit of control away from the the advanced mover. We're just going to take the central part of the controlinator and plug it into the bottom of that microchip there. So when we jump out of the craft, there's no gravity at all. When we jump in, the gravity becomes active again. And the the gravity tweaker on the left, when we stop moving, that one takes over control. So I hope that makes sense. But anyway, moving on now. I'm actually going to have a little bonus animation here. So you can see when we jump into the craft, it kind of just sort of lazily flops upwards off the floor. I actually want to build a piece of logic now that will kind of push the craft upwards when we jump into the craft, so it just makes it look a little bit more realistic. So we'll place a microchip down, and we're going to go for a NOT gate, but we're actually going to plug this NOT gate in with the central part of that controlator again, and we're going to invert the output here. So it says invert yes, we want it to say invert no, and you'll see that little triangle symbol. Next we're going to take a timer, and we're going to set it to start countdown. So we'll plug the NOT gate into the timer. And we've got a little mover here, so we want to set this to sort of just push upwards slightly. I've set the acceleration to 100, but yeah, up down speed we want it to push up a little bit, so I've put it to 1.5. So anyway, when we hop in, it'll actually just push the craft upwards just a little bit. Because the timer is set to start countdown, the way that works is the timer is all the way up before it can move, and then it slowly goes back down to its neutral position. So it kind of just gives a little pulse to the mover and pushes it upwards, just for a little bonus animation there. So I'm going to move on now. We'll take another microchip, place that down below the one that we've just been working on, and I'd actually like a few sort of sound effects to for the on-off now. Sorry, the deactivation of when you jump into the craft. So again, another NOT gate. We'll take the central part of the controller to plug it in. So these sounds are just some that I picked at random for when you jump out of the UFO. So like the deactivation sounds, or the sort of like the wind down kind of sounds. So the sound is quite important when you're building anything. I think you kind of want it to sort of mirror what you're seeing on screen with your creation. So when you hop in, you want a sound effect. When you're moving around, you want a sound effect. When you're kind of sitting there static, you want a sound effect. And when you jump out, you want a sound effect. So when you pick what you like, just plug the NOT gate into the on-off part on these sound objects, and then yeah, you can see here I'm just sort of jumping in and out, so you can hear what I've actually just set up there. So yeah, quite effective, but quite a simple, just quite a simple thing, but it adds a bit of detail and a bit of realism to what we're building here. So anyway, next we are going to set up the feature that I showed at the beginning of the video, the absorb feature. So we're going to put a microchip right at the bottom of the piece of cardboard that we set up earlier, so the main body of the UFO. Because we moved that other microchip up towards the middle, we've got space for this now. So I'm going to place a microchip down there, and then we're going to look for a tag. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick purple, seeing as that's the kind of thing we've gone with for this build. So purple tag, and I'm actually going to put a label in here. I think I put something like UFO absorb, something like that. Yeah, there we go, UFO absorb. So that's the first step. We want to do that. I'm just going to place down a emitter here. We're not going to edit this right now. We'll edit that later on. Just going to put it down for now, so I don't forget to do it later. So after we've done this, we actually want to take a little piece of cardboard here, and I've gone with this circular, just basic piece of cardboard, and we're going to put a microchip directly onto this. So this is going to be the main driving force behind this feature, the absorb feature. This will be basically what sort of does all of the heavy lifting and the hard work, like quite literally the heavy lifting. And you'll see what I mean by that. So place a microchip, and we want to shrink it down as far as it will possibly go. So here we're just going to take a few pieces of logic that we need for this, and I'll go through them one by one when I edit them, so you can just follow along on screen on the tweaks that I make to each piece of logic. So you can see we've got a couple of tweakers along the bottom. I've just put a follower down, and next up we want a tag sensor. We're going to place that down, and we want a destroyer. That's quite important for this, and also we're going to put down a sound effect, sound object, excuse me, and then finally we want a controlator. So these are all the pieces of logic that we're after for this. So let's have a little look at the controlator. We're going to set it to receiver and then we're going to set it to controlled by nearest player and the lead player. Next up, the destroyer. We are going to set it to rigid connections yes and change it to shrink. I'm going to plug that tag sensor into the destroyer. I'm going to take the maximum detection range to about 10, layer range, put it all the way into 16, change it to purple, and pick UFO absorb so that it matches the tag that we set up earlier. The sound effect, this is going to be the sound that happens when we actually absorb whatever it is that we're going to pick up. So just pick a sound that you think sounds cool. I went for this particular one, reverse effect, and set it to on destruction. Next up, we've got the follower. So maximum speed I'm going to put to 1, acceleration 100. The maximum detection range will take it all the way down to infinite. Change the layer detection range to 16, and we're going to set it to follow a tag. Again, purple and UFO absorb. So same pattern. Opacity, we're going to take the opacity all the way down, and material, we are going to put it not grabbable. We're going to put it to sticky, and then indestructible. Cast shadows no, physics sounds no. So there we go. So that's basically, we're all set there. So next, we're going to take the R2 output on the controller that we've got on this chip, and we're going to plug it into the follower. So because it's a receiver, when we are sort of controlling the main UFO, when we press R2, that receiver will pick up the signal that we are transmitting, and it will act accordingly. So it'll activate that follower. So we're just going to capture that, and we're going to pick it in the emitter. So you go into the emitter and pick the object that you want, line it up with the UFO, bring it down about there. So quite a little ways, and we're going to turn the linear velocity all the way up so it shoots straight out of the UFO. Frequency 0.1, lifetime infinite, and we'll have max emitted at once 5, and we don't want the max emitted destroyed, so we'll change that to no. We're just going to have it as appear and disappear, so keep it nice and simple. So after we've took that step, we're going to take the R1 on our main controllinator and plug that into the emitter. So there is a setting that I forgot to do here on the emitter that I will soon rectify, but until we get to that stage, just copy what I've done for the moment, and we'll get to that in a moment. So I'm just going to put another sound effect on here. So this is when we spawn that little piece of cardboard that we've just set up now. You won't see it, but it's there. So I will show this in the video actually up closer, but yeah. So when we press R1, because that will be our spawn feature, you'll also hear this sound. So they kind of work in conjunction with one another. So far we should have something that looks a little bit like this. So next up, I want another sound effect for when we are holding on to R2. So the reason we hold on to R2 is because the longer we hold on to R2, the follower will stay active within that little piece of cardboard that we set up. So you can imagine we're going to shoot a piece of cardboard down that's invisible. We press R2, and the receiver in the other controllinator that's within the cardboard will pick up that signal, and it will be attracted to the UFO via the tag. So yeah, if that's a bit confusing, just keep an eye on what I'm doing, and it'll become clear eventually. You'll see it for yourself. So we'll plug that into the R2, the sound object to R2 there. So I'm just going to take a piece of whatever material you want. I've just picked this piece of concrete, and we're going to test this now. So let's have a little look. So yeah, sorry. So this is what I wanted to tell you. You need to set the emitter to emit once. So I forgot to mention that in the other part. But yeah, make sure that you set the emitter to emit once, and then it should work. There we go. Press R1, and then we hold on to R2. There we are. We've got our absorb feature. So I'm actually just going to zoom into here so you can see the little piece of cardboard shoot out. Bam! There you go. You see that little dot. Yeah, there we are. So we know that that's working now. So yeah, quite simple actually, but quite clever. Just a little trick, but it's really quite fun to use and quite cool. So we're just going to take a little light out of the light section now. I've gone for this spotlight. So you can set up as many sort of lights and flashy things as you like, but I just wanted to keep it really simple and classic. So again, I've gone for the purple colour, turn the brightness all the way up, put it on high beam, put the fogginess all the way up, and I've set the radius to around sort of 10 to 12, something like that. I think I went for 10 in the end. Yeah, okay, yeah, around 9 or 10, something like that. Didn't want it too far, because I wanted it to actually look like a cone of light rather than a beam of light. So once we've done this, we're actually just going to stick a little microchip onto that little plug-in part of the light there, because we don't want this light to be visible. So we're going to put a few tweakers on here, like we did last time. Oh, also we're going to set it to dimmer as well. Right, so let's get to the tweakers. Let's put a opacity tweaker on there, so we can't see the light. We only want the actual light beam to be visible. So material tweaker, we're going to set that to indestructible. Cast shadows, no. Physics sounds, no. Don't want any friction on there. And we're going to put it not grabbable, and then we're going to take one more physics tweaker and just turn the collisions off. Nice and easy. So after we've sort of done that, I've also changed the weight there. It was only 0.1 anyway. It doesn't really matter. It's not going to affect the craft too much, but I wanted it to be weightless as well. We're going to take a timer, and we're going to set it to forwards and backwards. Target time around 3. And we're going to take the R2 button out of our main controlinator and stick it into that timer that we've just set up, and then we're going to put the timer's output into the light. So after we've done that, we'll line the light up just about in the right place where you want it. Make sure it's in line with the UFO. And push it all the way up in there, look, and then just glue it into place, just like everything else that's within there now. So we've got all one nice tightly packed unit of all of our components in there, all glued into place. Yeah, this can be a little bit frustrating to glue in, but just sort of keep moving it around. Eventually it'll latch onto something in there. So we're going to turn the colour down just a little bit here so we can see what we've got. Let's hop in and have a little play around with it. There we are. Yeah, just a cool little effect that we've added there. So again, you can add as many or as little lights as you like. You can add sort of more sort of bloom with LED lights or whatever you might want to do. You can see here that we can pick up multiple objects and absorb them. So yeah, really quite cool actually. Good fun. So we're going to move on now to just a little bit of a feature that I forgot to put in earlier while I was setting up the sound effects. So we're just going to place a microchip down there in our main controlinator. Let's take a sequencer here. We're going to take the sequencer board and shrink it down to just the shape and size that you can accommodate a battery, just like the ones that we set up earlier in the video. In fact, you could probably just copy one of those, but again, I like to make life difficult for myself, so I'm setting up a new pair here. So we're going to set it to positional, and we want it to be 0.1. So we'll do that for a start, and then we're just going to sort of copy it and paste it, and place them over to the side a little bit, so we've got a bit of room on this microchip. So yeah, we're actually going to put in a couple of this will be for a few sound effects that I want to put in here. So next we're going to need a couple of timers. Again, me being me, I forgot to change a setting on one of the timers, so I get all the way through this and then realise what I've done. We're going to take the left right and plug that into the positional, and we're going to take the up down and plug that into the sequencer input for positional as well. So the top one is left right, the bottom one is up down. I'm going to grab another timer and set that to 0.1 and on off, and plug it into the bottom of itself there for a constant reset basically. Again, we already covered this earlier in the video. We'll take a NOT gate, and yeah, let's just extend the board, give us a bit more room. So we'll plug the NOT gate into that timer there. Take the timer and plug that into the resets of the two sequencers. Again, same as before. And yeah, we'll put an OR gate here. I'm going to plug this into, excuse me, we're going to take the two batteries and plug them into that OR gate. I'm going to tweak these timers down to target time. We'll have it as 1 second for each one. And then we're actually going to grab the sound object here and place that down. So we want, again, sort of like a sound that is continuous, so the one with a little asterisk next to it. Asterisk? Can't speak. So I've just picked Danger Hum from the Sci-Fi pack, and we're going to change it to Modify Volume, take the timer output, plug it into the on-off and the tweak, and then we're going to copy it, do the same thing with the one below it. There we are. So we'll take the top battery and plug it into the timer that's in line with it, and the one below it, do the same thing. So yeah, this is where I made my first mistake. I didn't plug the OR gate that's at the bottom there into the NOT gate, so we'll do that. There we are. So yeah, sounds pretty good, but I realised that I didn't set the timers to forwards and backwards. So yeah, as soon as we do that, we fix it. There we are. So the idea is that every time we move, you can see those timers going up and down. So whether we're moving left, down, or up and right, you will always get these timers kick in and activate when we're whichever direction we're moving. So there we have it, guys. That's my tutorial and guide on how to make a cool little UFO within LittleBigPlanet 3. See here, I'm just having a bit of fun with these cows. It's actually given me a bit of an idea for a future video. Might do some kind of like cow absorption, like abduction thing going on or something like that with crop circles. I don't know yet. I'll think about it. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and I'd love to hear back if anybody decides to make one and what they thought, and if they had fun making it, and yeah, if they actually make any levels with it. But anyway, thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'd love to see you in the next video. Bye.